Good afternoon and Happy New Year, friends. My name is Barb Bruce, and I want to welcome you to the very first episode of 2021 of the Better Together Facebook Live. For those of you who are watching live or on the replay, this is a time change for us. They started the Better Together Facebook Live during the quarantine earlier in 2020. And we had such a great time that we wanted to continue this format where we talk about our hopes, our dreams, our worries, and our waistlines. And it doesn't matter where you come from or what you've been through. Here on the Better Together Facebook Live is where we find the hope, the help, and the practical next steps that we need. Because no matter what, even during a pandemic, we all want to get better together. And so now this year, we're going to be coming to you at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. And as always, you can watch on the replay. If you are someone who's watched before, you know that we love audience interaction. So we would love it if you would jump into the comments, say hi throughout the broadcast. We'll have different questions that we will ask you. We want you to be a part of the conversation. And so we see that a number of you have joined the broadcast. So say hello, give us a shout out. And in a few moments, I'm going to introduce our guest. It is a friend of mine. She is a workout buddy. We are on two separate coasts, but she is a sister in Christ. And today she is going to share with us some incredible wisdom around how do we handle these beloved devices in our family. Because let's face it, for me, my device tends to be with me a lot during the day, and we know that this has created a lot of tension in families. So you're going to receive some very practical next steps and help as we have our conversation today. Now, before we do that, at the beginning of every year, I know that many of you are always looking for a new Bible study. And if you're not looking for a Bible study, it's a good time to look for one. And so I wanted to remind you that the perfect time of the year to start a Bible study is right now, whenever that is. And even if you struggle with Bible study, that's okay. God loves you because he loves you, not because you fill out your Bible study every day. But if you've been struggling with things that you can't control, I would love for you to check out my Surrendered Bible Study. My fabulous producer Tabitha is popping it on the screen. And this is a 6-week Bible study about how Jesus models for us to let go of the things we can't control and how to have hope and patience and peace, even when your problems really don't seem to be changing. And so I want to encourage you to check out the Surrendered Bible Study so that you can discover that not only does God has more for you, but God is walking with you through the difficult circumstances of your life. So there's a link for the Bible study there in the comments. But for today, I now want to tell you about our special guest for today. This is someone that I deeply admire. She has such incredible work out there. So let me introduce today's guest, Arlene Pellicane. And I'm so excited I got too far up into my computer. So Arlene Pellicane is a speaker and author with several books, including Parents Rising, 31 Days to a Happy Husband, and Calm, Cool, and Connected, 5 Digital Habits for a More Balanced Life. In addition to the fact that today we'll also be talking with Arlene about her 2 new releases that she's co-authored with best-selling author Gary Chapman. And those releases, you'll see a picture of them on the screen. Speaking of screen, we've got Screen Kids as well as Grandparents Screen Kids, how to help, what to do, and where to begin when it comes to dealing with screen time. Arlene has been a featured guest on the Today Show, Fox and Friends, Focus on the Family Life Today, and she serves as the host of the fantastic Happy Home podcast. Arlene lives in San Diego with her husband, James, and their 3 children. And so, friends, would you welcome to the Better Together Facebook Live show, my friend, Arlene Pellicane.
Hey, nice to be with you, Barb. Isn't this lovely? We can, through technology, we can be together in the same room. So those are a couple good things.
Right. Technology does. It absolutely allows us to be connected. And speaking of that, we've got some friends connecting. Terry Bryan, thank you for joining us for today's Better Together Facebook Live. We're so glad that you're here. And for those of you who are watching, Arlene and I are going to talk about how we deal with screen time. Now, our kids have grown up from birth with screen time, but for us, it's not always been a part of our lives. And so if you're watching today, our icebreaker question is a fun one. So tell us, how old were you when you got your first cell phone? You can jump into the comments and you can share the answer to that question. Arlene, how old were you when you got your first cell phone?
I'm sure I was in my 30s. I'm not sure at what point in my 30s, but that was just like the regular flip phone. So I know I did not get a smartphone until I was in my 40s. So if you have some, like 8-year-old that's like, everybody in my class has an iPhone 11, you can be like, I just saw a woman on Facebook. She didn't even get her first phone till she was 40.
That is amazing. I mean, my first cell phone, it was a flip phone. It was a Nextel. And I remember that it had the little button on the side and it was very, very large. It was very,
this is a big button.
Very large. It was, and it met a very unfortunate ending. I was 7 months pregnant and I was at a restaurant, and after I had used the restroom, when I put the phone on top of the little thingy where the toilet paper's at, and I turned, and my soon-to-be born child knocked it into the toilet.
No. See, even then they knew my mom's going to be using that phone a lot. I'm going to get rid of that thing right now.
Even then, oh yeah. Well, let's see. Terry said that she got herself her first phone when she was around 33, a flip phone. I love that.
Terry, let's go.
Yes, and then our friend Lee is joining us. Hey, Lee, honey, it's good to
love you, Lee.
You. Well, Arlene, today we're going to talk about families and screen time, and you've got some important things to share with us. But before we do that, would you be willing to play a quick game with us?
Of course. Let's do it.
Good. Well, every week, because I think it's fun, I love playing. It's simply called First Thing to Mind. And so, Arlene and audience,
it sounds like this could be embarrassing.
That's why we do it.
That's why we're playing it.
But what I would love for you, Arlene, and if you're listening or watching, friends, whether you're live or on the replay, is I'm going to give you a word, and I want you to just say whatever the first thing is that comes to mind. All right? Is that good?
Yep.
All right. So, Arlene, first thing that comes to mind, here it is. Word of the year.
Supernatural.
Now, we had a chance to chat backstage, and you told me about supernatural. Tell us about the significance of that for you.
Now, I don't want you to think that I'm like this, oh, she chooses her word of the year and she's done this for the last 30 years. I'm kind of like, sometimes I choose a word, sometimes I don't choose a word. I think it's a cool idea to choose a word. So last year I was thinking through 2020, what word do I want for 2021? And I just thought I want supernatural because I want it to be what can God do and not what can I do. And what I could do is super limited. But what God can do is completely unlimited. So you just want to look at things like for your family, supernatural, what can God do? For your devices, for your screen time, it may seem like it's impossible to change habits, but supernaturally, what could you do? So that's why I chose that word.
That is so good. And it also leads into our time today, because screen time and families, and we've all been living through this whole pandemic. We've all been looking at screens. And so, Arlene, today, our hope and our prayer is to encourage parents who are out there who are pulling their hair out right now over screen time. Yeah. And so tell us, what are some of the tensions that you have observed that families have experienced during the pandemic over screen time?
Yeah. So there's just too much, because so much of school is already online. So now you have a battle of, wow, my kid is online already so much, but then after school, my kid wants to now connect with their friends more online. My kid wants to watch movies and TV for pleasure because they've just been through school. And then when they're at school, you're wondering, are you really at school? Or do you have like 3 tabs open? And so now you're wondering about, so there's a lot of stress involved in that. And so what I really hope that parents will get today is that you don't have to be in this victim mentality, because it's really easy to just think, well, here we go again. Like, these are circumstances beyond my control. Now, there are things you can't control, like maybe your child can't go to school and they have to do online school, but there's still a lot you can control as a parent. There are things that you can do. I was talking to one person and he says after school, he makes his kids run to the stop sign. They're bigger kids. They're all in high school. But he'll say, you have to run to the stop sign and run back. And it's about a mile. So it's about a half mile to that stop sign. So it's just this habit. So for instance, you may feel like, man, I'm helpless. They're on the screens all the time, but you are still the parent. If they're living in your home, you can still say, hey, we've got to be as healthy as we can. And being healthy includes not looking at your phone, not looking at a screen, 8 hours a day. It's just not healthy. So having that fortitude, right, as a parent, to say, I will not give up. I will not be duped. I'm not going to give in to all this screen time. And I'm going to find a way for us to get off screens for at least swaths of time on a regular basis for our kids' health.
Beautiful. And we're going to drill down into a little bit more of nitty gritty. And so if you're just joining me today, my guest is Arlene Pellicane, and I'm going to ask my fabulous producer, Tabitha, can you put up the whole graphic of Arlene's newest books that she co-authored with Gary Chapman? And Arlene, tell us about Screen Kids. What are some of the big ideas? And then we're going to drill down with a couple of questions.
Yeah. So with Screen Kids, it's the idea that, okay, technology is going to be part of your child's life. That is a given. We're not going to have you turn in everything. You don't have to go to paper 100%, but you have to understand the addictive nature of technology. That's very important. So this really helps you understand, how is technology truly changing brain chemistry in children? How can technology with young kids, from birth to, let's say, even to age 10, how can it really derail them emotionally, physically, spiritually? These are very serious issues. So it's a very much a wake-up call for parents that, hey, the screens, they're not neutral. Because if they were neutral, your child would just hand it to you and go on to the next thing. Right. But when your child gives you over the iPad, that's not a neutral. It's not like Switzerland. That's a battle. And so it's understanding, it's really helping you understand what is going on in the mind of your child, in the brain of your child as they're using their screen time. And then how can you set boundaries, limits for your child's safety, for their health, all those things.
Love that. And we'll come back to this. We'll come back to some of the features of Screen Kids in a moment. Audience, for those who are joining us right now, do you have phone-free times in your household? Arlene mentioned that her neighbor has his kids run down to the stop sign and back. So tell us, are there times in your family where you have screen-free times? And Arlene, as the audience is coming through with their comments, do you have some data to share with us about screen time and kids?
Yeah. So, there are so many hours that kids are being on screens, right? And it's just growing and growing, whether it's 11 hours for teenagers, whether it's 7 hours for elementary school kids. And also what is changing is the way they use screens. It used to be that they were on a computer or maybe they're watching television, but now there's a very large growth to mobile. And especially you can see that for, let's say, a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old or 7-year-old. So now instead of just sitting in front of a big screen TV, let's say, now it's mobile. And the danger in that, which you can kind of start putting together, is like, wow, now they can watch it whenever they want. It's not just when you're in the living room and when you're in front of the flat screen, you can watch this TV. But, oh, look, we're in the car. You can watch. We're waiting for the dentist. You can watch. We're waiting at this restaurant to have you be quiet. You can watch. And that's very troubling, because all those moments where a child, whether they're 3 or 13, where they would normally have to interact with people, let's say, or just learn patience of waiting for something, or, in those spaces where there's nothing to do, then you get an idea like, oh, I should do this. I mean, you can be creative, you can be imaginative, but now all those free spaces are taken with screen time, especially with the mobility of screens, with iPads and with mobile becoming so popular with kids, very small kids. So this, I think, is a huge concern, because it just makes it convenient. And in fact, I have brought to you my visual aid. So these are my beloved M&Ms. They're empty, but do you know that screen time, it's digital candy mostly. It's like fun videos. Now, can your child be learning math? Yes. Learning another language? You bet. On the Bible app? Yes. And that's why we like embrace technology, because there's a lot of good things you can do. But is your child, let's be honest, your teenager, your toddler, are they watching church on Sunday? Are they learning Spanish right now? Are they doing times tables? I mean, they're not doing any of these things. So that would be like a digital vegetable is what I would call that, learning a skill, learning something that's good for you. And screen time can do that. But most of it is it's digital candy. It's scrolling on social media. That's not vegetables. Talking face to face with a friend, that's a vegetable. Talking, even FaceTiming a friend, like really talking to them, that's a vegetable. Texting could potentially be a vegetable, depending on the nature of the text. But most of screen time, what kids are doing is YouTube videos, it's digital candy, it's things that are okay in small doses, but not in large doses. And what I want parents to understand is when they have easy access to the phone, to the iPad, it's just like, hey, walk around with a bag of M&Ms all day, but just eat a few. It's just, it's not possible. So as a parent, you're the one that's got to help them ditch that quote M&Ms, which means make it a lot harder for them to get to a phone, to get to a tablet. So there is an established time and purpose.
Well, I love your visual aid, because that does bring just that idea between digital. Assuming
freezing on me a little bit, but yeah.
Oh, am I okay? My apologies. I think it's helpful for us as adults. Okay, good. I think it's helpful for us as adults to evaluate whether or not we're consuming digital candy or digital vegetables.
Yes.
I love that. It also segues into the question of, do you have suggestions about how we can have encouraging, successful screen time with our kids? And one of the things that you said that really, really interested me, that you said it should be a little harder for them to get to screen time. Kind of unpack this whole thing for us.
Yeah. So with our children, we are not perfect. And there are lots of times where my husband's like, you're the screen time lady and you let the kids do this. You don't watch what they're doing. So I just want you all to know that I'm coming from that place. Right. But there are some really simple things we've done. No social media. So we have a 16-year-old and we have a 14-year-old, and we've talked about it, and we just, it's not really a democracy in that sense. It's like you're not going to get social media. But then we talk about the reasoning, because we believe that the negatives of what happens, that they're more than the positives. Okay. So just by eliminating, like, hey, social media is not going to be a part of our life. Regular video gaming at home, that's not going to be a part of our life. And if you want to really get into our laundry, we don't even have cell phones for the kids or personal iPads, but we do have a family iPad, Chromebooks, iMac. So people can get to technology and do things, but it's not their own, and it doesn't go into their bedroom. And to be honest, this step that's really simple, it saves money. Look at you. You've got this phone bill and you've got like 5 lines. I don't, I got 3 kids, no lines, nothing to pay for, people, so there's a simplicity in it that we have found works really well. Now, I know there's some of you listening that are like, okay, that lady is bonkers, because, so, and we can talk more in depth. There are other ways to get around that. My kids use my phone a lot. They use Google Voice to have their own texting number. They can do that from the computer. So the idea is it's a little more challenging for them to get to the technology, but they can get there, and then they can use it on purpose. Because let's face it, just being on any kind of device with YouTube access, that's hard enough. Like, that's enough to deal with in terms of wasting time, watching things that are inappropriate, all those kinds of things, let alone all the other stuff we throw. So I think successful screen time with kids begins with access. With what do your kids have access to, and feeling as a parent that, my elementary school kid does not need a cell phone. Maybe they need a dumb phone that just calls and texts so that they can reach out to you, but there's no reason that an elementary school child needs to have a smartphone. So you start there. And I think those limits really help out. And now, unfortunately, it's normal to see young kids with phones. It's normal to see a 5-year-old walking around with an iPad all day. Those things are normal. So you almost feel like it's weird if you don't, but you've got to go back and think, wait a minute, no, it's not, that's not normal. And so
Yeah.
for you to really push back on that and say, those devices, you don't need those yet.
And I love the fact that you are presenting what feels like, and I love that Lee chimed in earlier, countercultural parenting, which is
Right.
the last book.
Yep.
And originally I was going to interrupt and have you rationalize and explain why your family took this route. But I love the first point you made. You're like, guess what? I don't have a cell phone bill.
Right.
And that, I mean, that's a significant cost every month. But then also the second
My
part.
kids sleep all night long, every night, a good night's sleep, because they don't have a cell phone in there every 2 hours going, hey, is anyone awake? Hey, anyone play games? It's like it doesn't even exist.
Yeah. And then on top of it, leading into that, a lot of the struggle, especially that teens are having, it doesn't eliminate struggle from your two high schoolers' lives, but you don't then have, you have zero incidents of bullying.
It's true.
Zero. And
My
so if a
kids,
parent,
yeah, they go to public school,
they do.
and of course, obviously in person before the pandemic, but we ask them, no, it's like, no, we're not, we don't get bullied. You think they get bullied because they have no phones, they have no this, but it's like, it's funny. It's a protection. It's actually a protection.
And when you have those conversations, I appreciate that you said that there wasn't a democracy. I think a lot of parents feel worn down, and that's why there's screen time has just been like, it is what it is.
Absolutely.
How would you encourage a parent who just doesn't, they just don't know if they can mount the screen time battle with their kids?
So true. And my heart goes out to all of us because we're trying to work from home. We have little kids all around us. We have big, whatever the case may be. So the screen seems like, man, this is a necessary item just to keep sane, right? And so I understand that. But for you to just think, if I will endure some hardship now, right now, January 2021, beginning of the year, if I will endure some hardship now, it will make my life easier in the future. It'll make my child's life easier in the future. So for instance, if your kid is video gaming 8 hours a day, and that's normal, it's a pandemic, it's vacation, they have nothing else to do, they're not allowed to go outside, they can't, all these things. But so if you say, you know what, we're going to have a screen-free day, or we're going to go to 4 hours a day, whatever it is, that's going to be hard now. And you're going to have to stick to it. And you're going to have to be unpopular. And you're going to have to not care what they say and just stick to it because you're the parent. But in the future, what does that do? Now, all of a sudden, that child may realize, and you may realize it too, wow, they're really addicted because they couldn't go the one day without. And that's something you really need to know, because as they turn into an adult, that's going to be something super important in their life for them to have to figure out. Or let's say they have an extra 4 hours a day that they didn't used to. So now all of a sudden they realize, oh, I love to cook, or I'm going to go to my friend's house and play baseball outside, or I'm going to throw a Frisbee, or I'm going to go play soccer. And that's so much better. So all of a sudden they have this free time to be bored. So you have to realize sometimes when you make the screen changes, it's hard at first, but there's a lot of payoff. And it doesn't take too long for that payoff to come and for you to realize, wow, why did we not do that sooner?
Beautiful. And I think that in some of the response that you've had, because another question I had was creating emotionally healthy and safe places online with our kids. For the times when our kids are online, how do we create emotionally safe and healthy places for them?
It can start with location. So in terms of having the computers out in open spaces, so they know that you can walk in at any time. Now, of course, kids are super tricky, and it's so easy just to be in incognito mode, and it's like you just switch. So that's not a catch-all, but that's a good start. Having the computers in a central place. Teaching your kids from a young age, hey, there's a lot of bad stuff on the internet. And if you see something accidentally that you didn't mean to see, it's okay. And you can just come to me and talk about it. So have this like open culture that it's okay to talk about that. And then if they do say, hey, mom, I watched this video, I really shouldn't have watched it, I feel kind of dirty after watching it, what should I do? For you not to be shocked about it, and to not try not to be the crazy mom, drama mom, but, listen. and like, hey, you know what, that's okay, and we're going to try to, help you so that you have a better experience in the future. You just want to make it so as your kids do these things that they feel like they can come to you and that that's a positive experience. Now on the flip side of it, the safety is also up to you, that you have filters on your devices, that there are times maybe that the computer shuts off after a certain time of night, maybe the Wi-Fi goes dark at between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m., whatever it is. So those are things you can do to make it safe for your kids. And then like for us, we just felt like social media is not a safe place. 1 out of 5 girls is sexually solicited online. Young girls, 10-year-old girls, 1 out of 5, it's 20%. There's a lot of people. So for us, the safety measure was we will not be there. Like, we're not going to send you to that crazy mall. So there are safety things that you can do as a parent. And you know what's funny? It's even physical things produced, helping them so that their fingers won't be like permanently stuck when they're 40 because they've been using their thumbs all their lives, or their neck and their eyesight and their obesity, all the things that come from just sitting and being in positions that are not natural for our bodies. So even that is safe. A safe place is a place where there's some screen time, but that's not everything.
I love that. And I love how there were some very, very practical things that you just listed off right there. And so audience, if you missed some of that, just rewind or just scroll back the last minute, because like I thought, like the Wi-Fi, the modem, that parents, believe it or not, mom and dad, you still have responsibility. You can unplug the modem.
You're paying the bills.
Yes, and kids only have so much data on their little plan. So if they want to blow all their data trying to use all of that when you've unplugged the modem, let them.
Let them.
And then I really appreciate how you talked about having screen limits so that things shut off, making sure that they're out in the open while they're using their screens, knowing that parents can see what they're doing at any moment. Like, those are some very immediate, safe things that parents can do. Now, in the last few minutes that we have, you cast a greater vision for kids, and you talk about the A+ social skills. Can you take a couple of minutes and cast a greater vision to parents about overall, what is it that we need our children to grow up that they hold on and carry with them inside?
And this is the big picture. It's not like, hey, let's just take away the screen so we could be mean and have to work so hard. There's a reason that you want to do all this. And you know about the A+ academic skills, and those are great. That's fine. But more important than the academic skills are the skills of the heart, the skills of being a human being, of being in God's image. So there are 5 A+ social skills that we talk about in Screen Kids, and their affection. Does your child feel loved? Or do they feel like, oh, my family, my parents are on the phone all the time, or whenever I try to talk to them, they're distracted, right? That's not a feeling of love. So do your children feel loved? And can they express love? Or can they only just do like emoji? But can they really like look someone in the eye and say, I love you? So it's very important. Can they express affection? The second one is appreciation. And that's the idea of being grateful. Gratitude is really the mother of so many virtues. And what technology teaches is entitlement, because it's, I have choice. I am not entertained and you have to fix it. I want it right now. Why is it taking so long? This screen is too small. I need a bigger screen. It's all about like bigger, better, instant. And so it fights against a child feeling appreciative of, look, someone bought me an old flip phone. Thank you. Instead of, why in the world did you buy me this? I want the latest iPhone, So appreciation, being grateful is so important. And then the other ones are anger management. Every child, every human's going to feel angry, but how can they figure out, is their anger good anger? Like a real wrong has occurred, an injustice, and it's right to be, or when is it like I didn't get my way and they didn't buy me the video game and I'm angry, So for kids to work out their anger, instead of, for us as parents, many times we say, oh my goodness, it's making them so mad to take away their video game. Here, take back your video game. I can't handle the anger. Instead of saying, wow, this kid's got to learn how to deal with anger. They're going to have this in their life, and we're just going to take this thing head on, and we're not going to capitulate just because you got mad. So anger management. And then the last 2 are apology. Can your child admit, I was wrong and I'm really sorry, and will you forgive me? Or is your child going to be like, okay, I'll just unfriend that person because that got embarrassing, so just being able to apologize. And the last one is attention. It's so important. Can a child pay attention? Like if they're having a one-on-one conversation, do they drift and is like, this is boring, I'm out, or can they really look at someone's eyes and pay attention? Of course, according to their age. Don't expect a 3-year-old to be able to sit through an hour sermon. But when they're older, a high schooler, a junior higher, upper elementary school, they can sit through a 1-hour sermon. You bet. They have the capacity to do that. So can your child pay attention? Reading really stimulates this and helps this. And screen time typically really tears that down, makes that attention span very short. It's dropped 40% in the last 20 years, our attention span. So those are the 5 A+ skills. So if you have a child who's affectionate, appreciative, knows how to deal with anger, apologizes readily, and can pay attention in school and in life, like, hey, my kid's going to be okay.
That's good. Oh, friends, today our guest is Arlene Pellicane at arlenepellicane.com. You can go there and you can find more resources. You can also find out more about Arlene's newest book that she's co-written with Gary Chapman called Screen Kids. And Arlene, on top of that, you've got one new project that's coming out this year you've been working on, and tell us about it.
Yeah, so I've been working on some online courses, and one of my books is called 31 Days to a Happy Husband. And, parenting is tough work, but if we put everything toward parenting and nothing toward our marriage, then at the end of the 18 years, when we say goodbye to the kids, that's what you're supposed to do, I think. Then, it's like, what is left? And so 31 Days to a Happy Husband is really going to help you to focus in on your marriage, especially in this pandemic, because you're together a lot, but are you really enjoying that time together? So it's happyhomeuniversity.com. And I'll be coming out with a course on Valentine's Day to help you in your marriage. So happyhomeuniversity.com.
That is beautiful. I love that. And thank you, Arlene, for providing such a great vision for why screen time, being able to, as a parent, be proactive as well as have a plan is so vital. And I want to also thank you for casting that greater vision of what we want to teach our kids through those 5 A+ social skills. My kids are all grown up, but this has been so helpful today. I am so grateful for what you've shared.
Thank you, Barb, so much. It's been so much fun, and we are better together. So it's been so much fun talking together.
We have. And so, audience, if you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and leave a comment for us. You can also watch the replay on this episode right on the Better Together Facebook page. Previous episodes of the Better Together Facebook Live are at barbruce.com on the blog page. And each week, every Tuesday, we are here with new episodes in 2021 at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It is such a pleasure knowing that I'm going to serve you for another year, my friends. So until next week, have a wonderful week. God bless and take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.